The Alpha Sessions.
Hello and welcome to this week's Alpha Sessions, and in the studio today I have Martha. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And it's lovely to have you in. You've played 3 tracks for us today, which sounded amazing earlier. And some were from the EP, I believe, some are new, which is exciting. But I feel like we should jump straight in and talk about the EP that you released earlier this year, because that came straight off the back of the lockdown. Mm-hmm. Has it achieved what you hoped, despite all the implications, everything that came from the pandemic? How do you feel about it?
So it got to, I want to say, number 2 or 3 in the singer-songwriter UK iTunes charts, which I was really chuffed with.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then the single from that EP has, I checked last night, it's reached 12,000 streams on Spotify.
Wow.
Which is just from it being out on the internet. So I'm really chuffed with that. And BBC Introducing have played it. So I'm really chuffed with that EP.
Yeah. And this is No Good Night, My Love.
No Good Night, My Love, yeah.
And the title of that EP, I wanted to ask you, is that a lyric from one of the songs?
So it's a lyric from the single Oh Boy. I chose it. It basically just fitted the story that was sort of going through the EP. So the EP's slightly conceptual, where each story leads into another, each song. And it's that lyric, when I was talking about it with the producers, we were like, oh, the No Good Night, My Love EP. And it's just always stuck. It was a line from that song, but it was that line in particular, because I think that line was nearly the title for Oh Boy as well. But obviously Oh Boy rolls off the tongue a bit better, so we didn't want to leave it completely behind and instead name the whole EP after that lyric.
I mean, was that a significant lyric to you in terms of meaning as well, if we think about like all of the, because you were talking about being conceptual and there was like threads that were running through?
So that song was basically about a relationship that had just ended at the time, and you're like, one of the main parts of a relationship, I guess, is when you're about to say like good night to each other, either over text or in person, like good night, see you in the morning type thing. But it was like, no, that's not happening anymore. Like, that's very significant detail of that relationship is no longer a thing.
So it's symbolising like the end of a relationship, basically. And that's quite personal. Sounded like it was personal experience.
Yeah. But I mean, it's something that people can also relate to as well, because when that song came out, it was also a really poignant time for some of my younger listeners, where they had entered then relationships which turned into long distance relationships because of COVID. And obviously a lot of those weren't working out. So people could really relate to it, even though it was my personal experience. Yeah. I didn't realise how many other people were going through the same.
Yeah, of course. So you wrote this in the lockdown as well. Does that, I guess you're quite an independent writer. Do you sit at the piano and just things happen? Do you like go at it with intent, or do things just come to you? And
so whenever I say this to people, they sometimes laugh. But most of my song lyrics come from when I'm in the bath.
In the bath? Do you know what? I think that's more common than you might think.
Because like the door's locked, no one's coming in, you can completely relax, and I like to listen to my Spotify Discover Weekly during that time. And so even if it's just like one note or one word, and then I'll go off in this whole tangent in my mind, and so I just get my voice memos out and start recording what I'm singing in the bath, and then straight away I'll go down to the piano once I'm out of the bath and start putting it together. That's the main process.
So the lyrics kind of come first.
Yeah, most of the time. If I haven't written a song in a while and I'm like, oh, I should probably write a song, but nothing's really coming to me, then I'll sit down at the piano and come up with the chords first, which is how my first single, Her Name's December, was written. I was challenged to write a song, and so the chords came first for that one.
I see. Yeah, it's interesting that you have different processes depending on what you're writing.
Yeah.
But that's nice. I guess it means you come up with more varied music every time you write something different. You come about in a different way. But Her Name's December, that also did really well. Right. So that came out in 2020, December 2020 or 2019? I've forgotten what year we're in because of all this.
So am I. It's all sort of like merged into one.
Yeah, it does.
It's either or. I think it's coming up to a year old, or over a year old maybe. But it's when it was released, whenever that was. I know it was released in a summer time, because I was like, this is definitely the strongest song on the EP, but it's not very relevant to the time that it's being released. So we were like, oh, I don't know if it will do well, or because it's a song about winter, and it's, I think it was August or something. And so we're like, oh God, like, should we do it? But it's the best song on the EP. So we decided to put our best foot forward.
Yeah.
And it got to number 1 in the singer-songwriter UK iTunes charts. And I think it got to number 40 or 48 all genre overall. At one point I was next to Dua Lipa on that.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible.
That was really nice.
That's incredible.
And so that got played by BBC Introducing as well. So it's probably my most favourite song that's out, I think.
Yeah, and that's from the first EP.
From the first EP,
so that was a while ago. How different does that feel to you now? Because a lot of time has passed and a lot of things have changed. So compared to Old Boy and the No Good Night My Love, does it feel like a different era of your musical life?
Yes.
That EP?
I mean, the songs that I've played today, so I've played one from the first EP, one from the second, and then a new one. I feel like you can hear those developments as well. So for the first EP, it was sort of like I've been writing since I was 13. So one of the songs on there I'd written in maybe like 2017 or 16, which was Lunar Eyes. And so I was trying to like grab all the songs that I really liked from years of work, which was the first one. But then of course some of them technically weren't maybe the strongest, but story-wise and how personal they were to me, it was very strong. But then leading into the second EP, it was like, right, I've got all that out the way. It's now I'm working on this EP because I want another EP. I want to do the next bit of work. Yeah. So all these songs for the next EP were written for this EP, which was just a different way of working completely. And then since then, any songs that I've written, which are yet to be recorded, they're completely different again, because it's trying to draw inspiration from not a lot, because we were all in lockdown still. And then now we're just returning to normal life. So it's like I've got normal life to draw inspiration from, or being at home. It's different type of writing again.
But so the process is quite different, but and this was more of a project to you then. But I mean, one thing always stands out in your music, and it's like it's such a storytelling feel, like that all the lyrics that seem very important and poignant. Some people put more into the musical side or the conceptual side, but do the lyrics mean the most to you? Are they always from the heart? They're always personal? Yeah,
it's for me. I said to you earlier, because I got to probably like grade 2 in piano, so anything else that I've never been taught singing lessons. So for me, I started my singer-songwriting because I wanted to write these songs, and everything else I've sort of taught myself to go along with that. My favourite artist of all time is Birdie.
I was going to say, the first song that you played for us, when I was sitting there listening, I've written it on my little notes, it's just Birdie. Because, I feel that.
When I was 12 or 13, I was on my flip phone at night, and when I was meant to be asleep, and the only thing you could get on a flip phone was the radio, and she was quite new at that time, and they were playing her release of People Help the People. And I remember hearing it, and I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. So ever since, she's been my absolute number one, and everything that I write has sort of been spawned from her as the idol. So the lyrics are very important, and it's where I start, and it's where I hope to continue with the.
So the first song, I want to talk more about it, The One. When did you write this one? When did this happen for you?
So this was in 2019, and I just started a new relationship, and you know when you're just like, oh, they're amazing, like basically we went out to this club, and we had a bet that the drinks in there were a lot cheaper than I thought. They were a lot cheaper than what they were, and so we were the only sober people in that club, because we literally just went in for the bet. We didn't go in to have a good night, and so it was sort of this moment where we were on the dance floor trying to dance with all these really drunken people, and we're like, you just got to let go, like just dance, just have a nice time. But it was just really, I felt really awkward because I was like, oh my God, I'm not drunk enough for this. Like, this isn't quite the environment I want to be in. But it was all very new and just very exciting. So you just do it anyway because you're just so happy. And needless to say, it didn't work out. But it's just the way it goes. And it's sort of like nice to be like young, like in love and everything. And of course, everyone's always going to relate to that type of thing. So that's where the one came from.
Tomorrow your story could change. Together we'll keep dancing, but my doubt takes time to fade away. Ooh, 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 ooh. 'Cause you are the one that I needed. You
The Alpha Sessions.
And so you mentioned Birdie, and that song, the one you can really, you really get that vibe. But who else would you cite as your main inspirations?
So there's like a handful. There's Birdie, then it's probably Florence and the Machine. I also really like Aurora. I love Hosier, specifically the writing from him. They're probably like my top. I get likened to Freya Ridings a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
I think mainly because of just the piano and everything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're basically the main ones. Growing up, my dad is a big music fan, so we'd listen to a lot of Joni Mitchell, Kate Bush, David Bowie. So yeah, there's also that inspiration which I think subconsciously I take on just because I've been listening to it my whole life with my dad.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about what you listened to growing up, because it always makes a difference, I feel like. And I love Joni as well, Joni Mitchell. So, yeah, I really go on with that. But you have quite a folky sound, but in that ballad way, like you're saying, Freya Ridings and Aurora, and your voice really soars. Like, it's got a very strong voice. But this recent EP that you released this year has a full band feel, and there's some strings in there as well, right?
Yeah.
Are they live strings? Or are they...
It's a live violin.
Really? That's lovely.
And then in the first EP, we also had a live violin. And then we also had... And I definitely remember I had double bass in the first EP. I can't remember whether I had double bass in the second EP or not. But yeah, we tried to do as much of it as live as possible, because you can't really replace a lot of the sounds of a real instrument to something that you can get over the internet.
Especially strings. So
yeah. So we wanted to just have a bigger production. We wanted to move on from the first one, which was very me focused. So it was like completely my sound. And because the songs had matured as well, we wanted the sound to grow with that. So the production was a lot bigger. Yeah, on this one.
But in terms of playing live now, we were talking about this earlier, you usually play solo, or if you were going to play, you play solo. So you've never played with the full band experience. Is that something you'd be interested in?
I would absolutely love to. It's just something that I haven't quite had the opportunity to venture into yet. So most of my music, in fact all of my music, I've released during the lockdown. And so all of my performing experience has been over the internet. So obviously I couldn't meet people then, really. And then we didn't have too long of a break in between each lockdown until we were in another one. So now that I've come out of this lockdown, obviously I've gone back to work like everybody else. So it's something that I need to really start thinking about, because I think I'd really benefit from playing with a full band.
Yeah, definitely. But it's interesting you talk about live streaming, because a lot of people obviously got into live streaming. How did that feel? Is that something you enjoyed, or would you prefer being on stage?
Yes and no. I guess I can't really compare, because I could probably count on my hands how many times I performed on stage as me, like for my music. So it's something that I don't really know what I'm missing out on yet. So live streaming, of course, I can play on my own piano at home. I don't really have the travel costs or anything. And I get to meet people. I did a live stream for someone in Canada. I did a live stream for someone in America. And so I was able to, at a click of a button, meet these people, which was really exciting. But there were a lot of technical issues, which I didn't enjoy. And I think that was the main thing. Also, it was also quite impersonal as well as being a very intimate experience. Just the fact that you weren't seeing these people in the flesh, it would have been probably a lot better if I could.
And we were talking earlier about, because you say you can count on your hands how many times you performed, how much you actually like being in front of the audience, because you're without the band, you're very exposed. And it's something not everybody does. Not everybody enjoys that feeling. But live streaming I found really weird because of the lack of like sound in general, and like you say, technical issues, and I'm just not very good at technical things. So you've actually got a gig today, the day we're recording this, which will have passed by the time we get around to it. But how do you feel about coming in? Because you're in London, you're not in London very much. How do you feel about the gig that you're about to play tonight? It's your first one back out.
Extremely nervous because with the lives, I got very good at playing and then automatically stopping and reading the comments and responding as if these people were actually talking to me. And then now I've actually got a real crowd that's actually going to respond to me, and I'm like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, oh. But I'm sure I'll be fine. But yeah, I'm really nervous.
No, I'm sure you'll be amazing. And when you get up there and you start working with the crowd, I feel like it just like fills you with something that you can't replace being on live streams. But at the same time, I think live streams must set you up with connections that you make. Like you say, you can just get in contact with anyone online and click of a button. So that when you come out and gig now, you probably go to Canada if you want to and just be like, play a real gig. You've got so many connections.
Yeah, no. But I've just, I don't know. People say it gets easier the more you play. So I just need to keep doing it, I think. But I just haven't really had much opportunity yet. So this is the first of many, I hope.
Nice. But, have you got any lined up? Are you thinking of doing any more gigs before Christmas? Or
not at the moment. I was quite timid to say yes to the one I'm doing tonight, just because having been away, because before lockdown started, I was just starting to get into it. So I did my first festival. I had a residency at a restaurant. I was like starting to dip my toes in the water. I was gaining that confidence, and then suddenly it was all taken away. So the residency's gone. No more festivals can have you. So it was like the year that the first lockdown started, I had like 2 festivals booked already. The one had turned into 2. And so you've basically just got to start again. So I'm starting basically today is the starting again. So hopefully, but as of yet, not yet.
Hopefully it'll be the start of something. You'll do this and you'll get the gig bug and you'll just be going and going
and
going.
I hope so.
And travelling around. So I want to ask you about the second song you played for us, The Wife. Mm-hmm. And that's off the EP, the new EP, right? It's like the last track on there. And again, we were talking about your storytelling abilities earlier. This one is like
the
story.
Real story, yeah.
Is it fiction? Is it something?
Yeah, no, it's completely made up.
I mean, that's a good thing. It's interesting. I want to hear more about it. Where did that begin?
So it was sort of the piano that came first, I think, for that one. It was like a very minor melody that I'd come up with, and I was just feeling really probably quite sad that day, and I was just like, but I find it really hard. Lots of singer-songwriters like to write songs like the one where it's directly drawn from their life, but for me it feels far too personal all the time to have songs where it's like, this is about a boyfriend that I had, this is about an argument I had with a family member. Like, it's all very like almost like diary entries. So when I'm just feeling a certain way, I like to take myself out of the equation and just write mainly focused on that feeling. So this story is just completely made up from a weird corner of my brain. And it was probably stemmed from me feeling probably quite just sad. But instead of being like, I'm sad today because of this, there's this wife, and turns out that the husband was being really horrible to her. And so it feels like quite an old-fashioned story where it's like marriage is very binding and she felt very trapped. So then the dark twist at the end is that the only way she could escape is if she poisoned him. But yeah.
That is dark. That's some corner of your mind. There's a dark, shadowy corner.
I know. But whenever I played it at one like singer-songwriter night, and I'd literally written it that week. And so I was like, I'm going to try this song out on you guys. Now you just need to really listen to the lyrics, and there's a dark twist at the end, but I'm not going to tell you anything. And then when I finished this, when I got to the last line, you just hear a in the room, as in like, what have you done? And I was like, oh, so you enjoyed it then, that's good.
was yesterday when I'd hear you curse my name. The dirty dishes were still in the sink, and your heart it ached 'cause there was nothing left to drink. I promised myself that I was better, I wouldn't do this again. Give my heart away to a stranger full of demons. You took your toll on me. These icy cliffs have been melting from the fire blazing your soul. Ooh, our bridges have been broken. The flares are all but smoke, and the last ship set sail at dawn. I burn the pictures on our windowsill, 'cause they remind me of when you loved to live and not to kill. The town's been talking, filling my mind with thoughts, 'cause on our wedding day I promised to stay no matter the cost. Oh, you took your toll on me. These icy cliffs have been melting from the fire blazing your soul. Ooh, our bridges have been broken. The flares are all but smoke, and the last ship set sail at dawn. I always knew that we'd come to a tragic end, and as I read your stone, a flower falls from my hand. He passed peacefully, drifted off in a dream, caused by a poisoned cup, but that's a secret I'll take with me.
The Alpha Sessions.
It's interesting because you're talking about like putting yourself into music, and that one is just a story that you made up, but that can also be relatable. So a lot of people must listen to that and think of things themselves. So it's like whatever you do, right, even if it's not from your experience, it's somebody's experience.
That's the magic of music, really, because I've never been in an abusive relationship, luckily. And I've never been married, and I still live with my parents, so like I've never experienced any of it. And if people can still draw a relation from my lyrics, even though I have nothing to do with what's happened, I think that's incredible. It's just
I think if it comes from feeling,
yeah,
it's something
definitely.
that because you said you're feeling sad, just down, then it's always going to relate.
Yeah,
everybody can empathise with that. And the same, I was going to ask you about the third song you played for us, the Angel song, because that was a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And all of your songs have got this storytelling thing going on. But that one made me feel sad. And I know, is it supposed to make me feel sad, or did it come from a happier place? Because it's an interesting concept in that one.
So I really like to focus my songs a lot around nature and what's around me. And so Her Name's December was literally derived from looking out my window, and it was really bleak and horrible and disgusting, and the weather, it wasn't a very good day. So that's literally how December was made, was just looking out my window. And then Lunar Eyes, I like to look up at the sky sometimes and like mull through how I'm feeling. So the Angel song, I was sort of just like thinking about beyond here and what actually goes on. I sort of, it's a story about an angel that's fallen from heaven because it wasn't good enough to stay there. But because it fell from heaven, it became a perfect human. So it's sort of like a bittersweet story. But yeah, it's that, again, that was just one completely made up.
But it must have come from a feeling again.
It must have done. But because I guess as well at the time, if we want to make it slightly personal, a lot was going on with my gran at the time, health-wise. And so she's fine now. But we were sort of planning for a slightly sadder outcome. And it sort of prompted me to think, well, what is there? And like, there's some people you meet when you're just walking around and you think you're such a lovely person, like you're almost like heavenly, like how are you so happy and smiley all the time? And so I guess from there it stemmed, really.
So it does come from a personal place, and that's also an interesting to think about, is that maybe if you didn't intend it to come and from a personal point of view, but maybe it did subconsciously get affected by that. The vocals in this one, there's a lot of really nice high range in there, but it's kind of like, it's very intimate. It sounds very intimate. And it did remind me of being in a church choir. It's sort of like this big wide space. And I was actually intrigued by something I read in your bio about you singing in a church congregation. Is that where music started, when you were like 9 or 10?
Yeah.
Would you say that's like the beginning, the starting point of music? Yes.
So my mum, during primary school, my dad was the head teacher and my mum was my year 6 teacher. And so it was a Catholic primary school, and so we were very heavily involved with the church that was on that site. So we'd always do the Christingles and the Sunday masses and everything. And my mum was heavily involved with that music side of the church singing. So I think I had my first solo at 9, and I sang in front of the church congregation. And my mum has a voice recording of me on her Nokia brick phone of me practicing my first solo, because I thought it was awful. And she was like, "No, you sound really good." And that's basically where I just kept going from there. So from then, around the age of 10, I then started piano lessons, and then from the age of 13, I started writing.
I mean, that's early, it's an early age, but that's why I think it's kind of a mature kind of storytelling, songwriting where you are now, because if you start early and you get into that flow. But so would you say that your influence also comes from your parents or your family? Do you have family members who are also in music, or?
So they aren't quite so now. My brother got to grade 5 on trumpet. My sister got to grade 4 on violin. My mum plays the flute, a bit of the piano, and then she also sings. And then my dad has like a massive interest in music. Now it's mainly just me who does the music. But at one point we were all doing an instrument, and quite frequently, even now, my dad will sit and show me some music that he thinks is really good, and we'll like compare and talk about it. So everyone's has a musical ear in my family, I'd say. So I've always been around it.
Yeah, and that's the best way to be brought up. I always say. But the last song we're about to hear, the Angel song, is really lovely. So before we hear it, what was the writing process for this one?
So this one, the chords came first. I was trying to. This was one of the songs that I'd written. Probably I hadn't written a song. To me, when I write my songs, it's either a really good song, or if it's not quite there, it doesn't count. So I actually have probably hundreds of songs, but if they're not quite good enough, then they don't really count in my mind. So I'd written a few songs previous where I was like, that's just not good enough. That just doesn't quite cut it. And so I was basically going through a massive writer's block. And so I really tried hard with this one and was thinking about the melody. And then everything else followed afterwards. The lyrics and everything. Beautiful. So it came after quite a long period of writer's block, so I'm really proud of this one.
So it was the beginning of a new movement in music for you. Well, it's beautiful, and if anyone wants to find you and your music, feel free to tag all your socials. Where can we hear you?
So the best place, the place where I'm most active is my Instagram, which is @MarthaMusicUK. But then I also have my songs on Spotify and iTunes. So if you just type in my name, Martha, and then my first EP is called Lunar Eyes, my second EP is called No Goodnight My Love. And then there's more music maybe on the horizon, but for now, that's
Exciting.
That's where you'll find me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I hope we can have you on again. And it's been really lovely to talk to you.
Thank you, and you.
Crashing to earth past the skyline, folding your wings as they catch a light, holding your breath, no sign of slowing down. You passed your lucky stars hours ago now. I knew it was you from the way you glowed. You lit up my room with your fireworks show. You entered this world just like I always thought you would. Beautiful chaos misunderstood. Some angels were made to fly. Oh God, the golden gates. Some angels were made to fall. That's how a perfect human's made. And as the town wakes up, rubbing their tired eyes, they'll find your landing field by the mess left behind. But we'll be miles away before the sunrise, on the next bus with Alaska on the side. Some angels were made to fly. Oh God, the golden gates. Oh, some angels were made to fall. That's how a perfect human's made. If they try to find you, promise to come